I'm not so sure it's as much about stupidity as just being unaware that as we grow older, as our lives change, our bodies change, and we have to be aware of that. In the same way as if we do lose weight, as we lose more and more weight, we need to reassess it every time whether or not we're still doing the right thing in terms of food.
I'm being a bit mean and borderline inappropriate. Not stupid, I think that's the wrong word, but you're
Yeah.
just being unaware of the fact that you're not a machine.
Yeah.
You are a body that works brilliantly when it's first produced,
Yeah.
but over the ravages of time and life experiences starts not to work so well,
Yeah.
and in the end it's going to stop working
Yeah.
completely.
And we're not aware of it. I think one of the nicest analogies I can give is, obviously, as an actor, when I was being trained, we had to learn breath control, and we had to learn that so that we could project our voices to the back of a theatre by using our diaphragm, which is where it should be coming from, where our breath should be coming from. And I remember when my first nephew was born, I would spend ages just watching him asleep in his cot. And it was wonderful. And I noticed that every single time he breathed, his ribs came out and his ribs went back in and his ribs came out. And I thought, wow, when is he going to start breathing from his shoulders? Because most adults, if you say take a deep breath, it's their shoulders that go up. That's actually a shallow breath. It's not a proper deep breath. And yet it happens to so many people who lose that instinct to breathe from the diaphragm. And these changes happen without us realizing because we're not aware.
I think that's a very, very insightful. And you just made me wonder about, a lot of the yoga and Ayurvedic practitioners who spend a lot of time thinking about breathing, how their body feels, being aware of their fingers, their arms, that all this stuff. And they seem to be, first of all, free of stress, pretty healthy by and large, but actually they're sort of very healthy into their older years. And I think that's part and parcel of what you've just described is, children do it automatically, and then we all get too busy to do it, and we forget that actually being aware of how you breathe and how you should breathe, and just practicing it time to time is actually very, very good for you.
Yeah.
Bit like the sleep thing that we're discussing, practicing going to sleep properly rather than just going, oh God, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I better go to sleep.
Yeah. What worries me is there are some people who also have very stressful lives. They might be carers, they might do night shifts. The process is still the same for them, whether they're going to bed at 11 o'clock in the night and waking up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. If they're on a night shift, they still need to find their own pattern of how they get that 8 hours in. And I know it's harder because during the day you're going to have roadworks or something outside your window or kids running around. And it's obviously
someone phones you because they think you're going to be up. It's very interesting if you look at the general health of people on day shifts versus night shifts versus variable shift workers. In other words, you do a set of nights and you're back on days, and then you do some nights and you're back on days. Night shift workers have poorer health than day shift workers, because it is very stressful living a life nocturnally and having a family, having a partner that might not be nocturnal. It's just, you've got to interact with your daytime world sometimes, and that disrupts your sleep pattern. The worst of all, health-wise, are the ones that do 3 or 4 nights in a row, then they're back on days, and then they have to go through nights again. Typically like your junior doctors. Good grief, that is disastrous for your body clock, for your regulatory systems, general health, mental health. It's rubbish. You're better off being permanent nights for a year at a time, if you like,
Yeah.
than switching in and out. But who wants to be permanent nights for a year?
Exactly, especially as someone like a junior doctor who, they're in their youth. They
Yeah.
also have to have a life outside of work. It's not sustainable.